Alright, hi guys. So I finished these Hungarian Napoleonic Grenadiers, part of the Austrian army, of course. I painted them in the colors of the Eszterházy regiment. One thing I found that's tricky about these Napoleonic Grenadier formations is most of the time they were kind of formed ad hoc with grenadiers from multiple regiments being in battles being formed into like new grenadier battalions, so the facings would be mixed. But I made a decision for painting these guys that what I think I'll do is just paint the grenadiers I have as one regiment. Now there was no the Eszterházy regiment was not present at the Battle of Rajan that I want to war game eventually, but they were, in the 1809 Danube campaign, or the War of the Fifth Coalition, I think. So I figured I'll just go with them since I've got all these Hungarian Grenadiers. I did one stand. I think they look okay. They paint up faster than I would have anticipated. They're true 15s. This is from the Brick Dust range that's sold by alternative armies, and here I've got more Austrian Grenadiers off to the side. I've painted those and did videos about them. So they're quite a bit smaller than, for example, these Old Glory 15s, as you can see. Yeah, so the scale is quite different, but, miniatures are miniatures, and, Meandering Mike was kind enough to send me all this Napoleonic stuff he didn't want anymore, so, gonna go ahead and paint it. Although I have to say, after trying to do these Napoleonics, I'm not nearly as motivated with the project. I still want to do it and or at least paint, what I've got, because, like I said, Mike was kind enough to send me a bunch of Austrians and French, so my idea is to just paint what I've got up as, different, to represent different units from the 1809 war, but in terms of like trying to build out the Battle of Rajan, I'm kind of low motivation. And then I've got these Saxons that are part of that, Grenadiers, but I don't know, I'm kind of not as keen to do the project anymore, just because it took so long to get the order in from Old Glory 15s that I am kind of, that kind of took the wind away a bit from my project. So I'm still going to paint these, I think. It's always nice to have something to paint rather than nothing. But yeah, that's kind of where that stands. And plus I've just got a lot happening, in real life, and so I get tired at the end of the day most days, which it's not the same kind of tiredness of being like doing like labor or something like that, but it's just mental tiredness that's hard to deal with after doing like translations. Everything I do is basically doing translations, so it's mentally very taxing, and I'm not like, it's just kind of tiring. And sometimes when I get home I just want to sit and play a video game on the computer instead of painting. And also I don't know, I kind of would rather, I think, do Timur and Timurids, because my plan a few months ago, I thought, okay, I'm gonna paint up the Battle of Rajan over time. You know, I thought maybe that could take like 3 or 4 months to do everything, because painting 15s is pretty fast. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just have found my kind of niche of doing some kind of horse archers. So my thinking is, if it's in my budget this month, I might order from Coruscant, of course. I might order the set with Timur or Tamerlane himself, and then the command set, and then maybe get like an elephant, uh, and yeah, and start doing that. There's not a lot of good books about Tamerlane. I want to do the Battle of Ankara in 1402, because I could use a lot of my Ottomans. I would need to get some earlier Ottoman figures, but fortunately Khorasan makes those. They didn't have really at that point. I don't think they were really using many um, gunpowder, handguns. They had cannons, but I don't think they had it at that battle. Anyway, but yeah, I would just have to get like some more Ottoman archers and Azabs, the spear infantry. But I did get this from the library. Let me see if I can zoom out a bit. There we go. Yeah, Rise and Rule of Tamerlane by Beatrice Forbes Mons. She's like not the only scholar, but I think she has like the best books in general about Timur in terms of overviews. There's really not a lot about the Timurids, even academic stuff, just because we don't have that many sources from like the 14th century, and especially from the later Timurid period from the 15th century, because stuff doesn't survive, or maybe it just hasn't been discovered yet. Yeah, so, but anyway, I think there's like a popular book about Tamerlane Timur himself that's written by I think he's a British author. I don't know if he was a historian, uh, academic historian. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so that's just kind of my niche. I mean, you come here for the the weird stuff, I guess, but I think I'd like to work on that maybe, and kind of deprioritize the Napoleonic stuff. Um, Also, just because I find like trying to look up all the facings and stuff is kind of stressful, honestly. Um, and I know people will probably say, "Oh, just don't worry about it. It's your miniatures," and I get that, but I'm the kind of person I'd rather at least attempt to do it right, or not do it at all. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to go overboard with artistic license. I mean, it happens, but I'd like to at least make a good effort that it's historically based. Yeah, so that's kind of my little hobby ramble. Um, and There's another book about the Timurids that comes to mind. That's Timurids in Transition, but that's about the later period under Timur's, I think it was his grandson. At any rate, Shahrukh, who was later, he came later. That's kind of about how the Timurids tried to transition from this kind of like conquest empire to something more sustainable, but didn't quite work. And then that's where you get my favorite figure from probably at least Islamic history, Babur. That's how he ends up in India eventually, kind of gets thrown out of Central Asia, loses his throne in Central Asia, then he goes to Afghanistan, then he goes into India. Anyway, I've talked about that on videos before, but yeah, this is the last. I guess I'll just show these guys one last time. I think these brick dust figures are good if you're not really overly concerned with the scale. I think in retrospect, if I was to do a Napoleonic, if I had planned this better, I would have probably bought like all brick dust figures, or at least in bulk. Just because now I see the scaling doesn't quite match up so well with like Old Glory 15s and things like that. But that's one thing I'm not like a super big I'm not really hung up on that too much. So yeah, but and also I don't think the brick dust range that Alternative Army sells includes Poland or the Duchy of Warsaw that I need if I want to keep doing Rajin. But I guess one last thing, I was trying to glue these to these tongue depressors, and the kind of metal bases that they're cast with aren't really flat, and it seems like that is one thing these figures I'm not enjoying is like I've tried to file it down, the metal base down to get them to stand, and it's not really easy. So what I just ended up doing is I just took the sticky tack I had left in the package, and I just stuck it onto these tongue depressors to do priming. It's not the most elegant solution, but it seems to work okay. As you can see, that's the one I use. So yeah, I guess as long as it gets done right. So okay, that's my video. Hopefully I'll be able to do more painting stuff. And we'll see, though. There's always more work to be done. I did get through a few big deadlines recently, so kind of the hurdles have slowed down a little bit, at least for now, maybe the next week or two. But anyway, yeah, all right. I'll close it up there. This has kind of been too long of a video, but if you're still watching, thanks. And I will talk to you in the next one.